Yam shaivas samupasate shiva iti brahmeti vedantino Bauddha buddha iti pramana patavaha karteti nayyayikaha arhan nityatha jaina shasanarataha karmeti mimamsakaha soyam vo vidadhatu vanchita phalam trailokyanaatho harihi soyam vo vidadhatu vanchita phalam trailokyanaatho harihi. Advaita bodhabja sahasra rashmihi shanterlataya kila kalpa vrikshaha samsara santapa vinasha chandraha krishna sadahladakaro mamastu krishna sadahladakaro mamastu. Harihi Om. Harihi Om. Harihi. As usual, I am going to recite 3 times the auspicious monosyllable Om. I would like everyone seated in this assembly to join me in reciting in chorus the auspicious monosyllable. The intention as well as your sankalpa should be that this collective voice acting as an austerity, an auspicious austerity, should permeate the whole of the earth and beyond and exercise its benedictory influence so that there will be an auspicious effect felt readily by all those concerned. The sankalpa or the creative imagination of the human heart is extremely potent. There is nobody to set any limit for it. In fact, the whole creation has proceeded from the creative thought of Brahman, the supreme reality, without any name and form. So, have your pose, sit as much erect as possible without straining yourselves. Close your eyes. Open your heart as well as the mouth and join me. It is not sufficient. I think all of you have not participated. Come. Harihi Om Tats. Jai Guru. I don't have to tell you particularly about Srimad Bhagavatam as a great holy text, a very exceptional compendium, spiritual and philosophical and yogic compendium. It is generally called a Samhita. This consists of, as you know, 18,000 Sanskrit verses, divided into 12 skandhas, and all the skandhas together containing about 335 chapters. Generally we say about the Srimad Bhagavatam that it is a scripture on devotion. The genesis of devotion, the growth of devotion, and the excellence and fulfillment of devotion. But is it only that? Is an important question I would like to pose before all of you. It is not that. If it only deals with bhakti, then throughout the text we need write only 2 letters, bhakti, 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 devotion, devotion, devotion. It is not so. It is an unusual and a splendid narration. narration of truths, principles, values, ideals, a number of other items allied with these, everything bearing upon the human mind and the human intelligence. Understand, Parikshit was seated, and right in his front was the young ascetic boy wearing no apparel or dress on his body. He goes on reciting, narrating whatever he narrated. And it continued for 7 days, you should understand. It contains a lot of information, not information, knowledge. It gives you a splendid exposure to your own personality, the human personality, to the entire visible but infinitely splendid world. We have not known so far anything like an end or a boundary of this world. But it explains how all this is occurring or transpiring. So the entire discussion is around the human mind, around the human intelligence, covering the entire orbit of creation. So you can imagine what all subjects should have been covered in this wonderful text. How much of detail it has gone into, and what kind of a magnitude, measure and profundity it embodies at every point. This is something to be repeatedly thought about. I have always felt greatly sorry for the intellectual community of our country, because they miserably miss the wonderful contribution and enrichment this great holy text and similar ones can bestow upon human personality. If our administrators, the intelligentsia, so to say, of the country, are rightly exposed to the treasure, that the knowledge treasure that our scriptures and scriptural compositions have, I think the whole country would become different. I think we would have been far different from and superior to Vaikuntha and Kailasa. Unfortunately, for strange reasons, our intellectual community denies itself the benefit of the enrichment which Srimad Bhagavata and such other compositions can surely contribute and bestow upon them. Just see the first verse itself of Srimad Bhagavata. A number of discourses have been made from this platform ever since we began the Srimad Bhagavata Tattva Samiksha Satram in this holy land of Naimisharanya. But I wonder whether anybody exposed the first verse. If at all anybody has exposed, I don't know. If it has been exposed, has it been exposed amply well? Srimad Bhagavata on the one hand says, I am extremely sweet and delicious day after day and word after word. The same Srimad Bhagavata describes itself as Vidyavatam Bhagavate Pariksha. For the erudite, the scholarly and the intelligent, the rational people, Srimad Bhagavata poses a constant question paper, an examination for even the best of intellectuals in this world. Why it is so? It's very, very difficult to explain the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. If you start writing a commentary on it, I'm almost sure that it will run into dozens and scores of pages. Janmadyasya yatonvayaditaratah chartheshvabhijnaswarat tene brahmahrida ya adhikavaye muhyanti yat surayah tejo varimrdam yatha vinimayo yatratra sargo mrisha dhamna svena sada nirasta kuhakam satyam param dhimahi satyam param dhimahi. In this first verse, opening verse, Srimad Bhagavatam presents before you what is the content, what is the message, how is it to be approached, and what is going to be the benefit if you approach it, pursue it, practice it, and perfect it. What is the subject discussed here? As many people may say, devotion is the subject discussed here. Just see the opening verse. Janmadyasya yataha These are the opening words. Asya janma adi yataha. We are discussing that one particular subject, namely the source from where the entire beginningless creation has proceeded. Janma means birth or emergence. Asya means of this world. Call it a world, call it creation, call it universe, or call it your own mind. Whatever you are seeing here, whatever you are surrounded by, whatever you are pervaded by, whatever you are experiencing, cognizing, recognizing, comprehending, sensing or apprehending, whatever it is, where from has it had its origin? Where from does it emerge? We are discussing here that supreme reality, that supreme source from where the whole endless and beginningless universe has proceeded or emerged. Tell me now whether it is simply bhakti or something stupendous. It's a kind of a proposition. It's a kind of a subject. It's a kind of a goal. It is going to be a profound challenge to your mind and heart. And for the intelligent people, it is going to be a greater challenge for their masterly, competent intellect. Janmadyasya yataha. See, we are all living upon this earth. If I ask you, what kind of a source do you have? Can you tell me who is the first set of parents? No. Even if the first set of parents were there, where from have they come? They could have come only from the earth, only from water, only from air, only from the surrounding things, the Panchabhutas. But do the Panchabhutas or does any one of them have the intelligence or the power of cognition, the power of sensation, the power of thinking, the power of understanding, the power of memorizing as we have? The answer will only be no. How is it that we human beings, with such a cognizing, comprehending power, how is it that we have been evolved from the Panchabhutas which lack this wonderful power? Don't you find a contradiction there? Is it not a conflict? So certainly the subject has to be inquired into. Where from did we derive our body? Where from did we derive our senses? Where from has it come? If you say you are born of the first parents, the question remains, where from the first parents have come? What existed before the first set of parents? Obviously, the bare matter, the inert and insentient material world alone existed. From the material sources, you cannot have a spiritual person, a mental person, an intellectual person, an ego person like the human being. So there is a mystery, there is an enigma, there is a paradox about the whole affair. Are you understanding what I say? Huh? There is a paradox. How can we unravel it? Which book of knowledge will give us the right information or enlightenment on this subject? There are so many texts, so many branches of knowledge evolved and imparted in the campus, university campuses. But will they be able to tell us where from the whole universe has emerged? The scientists are always experimenting and researching into whatever is seen, the visible. They inquire into the final particles and constitution of matter on the one hand, and perhaps energy on the other. But these are belonging to the visible world, the material world. We would like to know how all this materiality, the material structure and the material divisions, where from have they evolved? What is actually the source of existence? What is the source of existence? What is the source of materiality? What is the source of knowledge? What is the source of experience? This is the inquiry. Don't think that it is a small inquiry. It is an inquiry to pursue which you will have to dedicate very dedicatedly perhaps the whole of your life. Now Srimad Bhagavata is speaking about it. So it is not a text as you think purely only of devotion. Chant the name of God. Install Him in your heart. Be loving Him. Be dedicated to Him. Resign yourselves before Him. Everything should be engulfed by Him. Yes, Srimad Bhagavata says all this. but not only this. That is the difference. To make you understand the profundity of the text, the magnitude and the potential the text carries, the first verse gives you a beautiful description. Janmadyasya yatonvayaditaradah. You know, we have something called Prasthanatrayam. What is this Prasthanatrayam? That is actually the cultural treasure of this land. You generally hear only about Itihasas, epics and Puranas, mythological compositions. We have a number of Prakarana Granthas, subsidiary texts, authored by a number of authors. But all these are subsidiary in the lower level. But the original texts are Prasthanatrayam. It is actually a triplet, so to say. The first section or the first segment will be the Upanishads, the Vedic Upanishads. Mind you, the Vedas are the first source of knowledge for us. In the Vedas there are 4 sections. Samhita constitutes the first, Brahmanas constitute the next, Aranyaka the third, and the Upanishads the fourth. Only in the Upanishads you find an ample enquiry or different types of enquiry presented before you and pursued systematically and consistently, and finally you are able to arrive at the supreme reality right in your own heart without an iota of doubt or skepticism about it. So the Upanishads are the first constituent of Prasthanatrayam. The word Prasthana itself means a knowledge voyage. The spiritual wisdom is actually a voyage. Just like you take a pilgrimage and you have a goal, a destination, here also we want to know the supreme reality, the supreme source. And in order to arrive at it, interact with it, experience it directly, first hand, we make the knowledge. Such a journey can obviously be inside the body. It cannot be outside the body. It's a journey that I perform within myself, within the perimeter of my body, employing the 2 instruments called the mind and the intelligence. When you take such a prasthana, whatever happens, that is described in the Prasthanatrayam. So the first constituent is the Upanishad. The second constituent is Bhagavad Gita, taken from the Smriti. The first is called Shruti, the second is called Smriti. Bhagavad Gita itself comes in the Shanti Parva of Mahabharatam. Mahabharatam itself contains 1.25 lakhs of Sanskrit verses. And Bhagavad Gita is one section of it incorporated in the Shanti Parva towards the end of the treatise. This Bhagavad Gita itself is the first commentary or elucidation of the scattered thoughts of the Upanishads. That is the second constituent. What is the third constituent of Prasthanatrayam? It is called Brahma Sutras. They are all aphoristic statements in the form of aphorisms, short and cryptic statements where profound truths are contained and disseminated. Altogether, 500 and odd sutras are there. In the Upanishads, the thoughts, the enquiries, the findings, the assessments, the declarations and the professions, all of them are lying in a scattered and a distributed manner. In the Brahma Sutras you find Badarayana has collected all of them and he has strung them together in a very sequential manner. That is why it is called Brahma Sutra. In the Brahma Sutra, the first 4 sutras are the most pronounced. Athato Brahma Jijñāsa. Athato Brahma Jijñāsa. Will you recite this for me? Athato. What happened? Athato Brahma Jijñāsa. Now therefore is the enquiry into Brahman, the supreme reality. What is meant by now and what is meant by therefore? And what is the meaning of enquiry? And then what is the meaning of Brahman? In this way the commentator will go on explaining every word, perhaps taking page after page. What is this Brahman, the supreme reality? What is to be done in its context? You have to inquire about it, discover and realize it. And in discovering what is to be done, who is competent, what are the qualifications? Is it by virtue of age? Is it by virtue of birth in a special family? Or is it by virtue of some qualifications or prerequisites which your mind and intelligence and heart have? This is threadbare discussed there. Athato Brahma Jijnasa. By inquiring into the supreme reality called Brahman, in what way will human life be benefited? Is it a promotion or a demotion? Is it an enrichment or is it an enervation? Is it an elevation or is it a contraction? All these points are discussed. The second sutra is Janmadyasya Yataha. That is why I told you this. The second sutra is Brahman is that from where the entire visible creation has sprung or emerged. Will you not like to know your parents? Will you not like to know their parents? Will you not like to know the first parents? Will you not like to know the source of the first parents? If you like yourself, you have been a son, you are a son or you are a daughter. Where from have I been born? I have been born from my parents. From where are they born? From their parents. Ultimately, or going back, the first parents, where from were they born? If you are not prepared to inquire, can I call you a human being? A human being is noted for the knowledge acquisition that he should make. A cow eats, a bird also eats. They don't know about anything like their food. They have never analyzed it. In the case of man, we want to analyze and try to know everything about our life. We have got intelligence. The only requirement and quest of this intelligence is knowledge, the quest for knowledge. As our stomach feels hungry and hunger needs to be appeased, the mind wants peace and contentment and it has to be given. In the same manner, the intelligence has to be constantly fed and nourished by knowledge. Unless you make efforts to improve your knowledge, enhance your knowledge, to refine and reform your knowledge, to elevate your knowledge, your humanhood is not justified at all. We are not born here to eat, drink, sleep and multiply. We are born here to know what we are, what is this world, who is God, and what is my goal of life. Unless this inquiry is taken up, human life is not worth itself at all. Let us be very clear about it. Athato Brahma Jijnasa Janmadyasya Yataha. So whenever you refer to the supreme reality called Brahman, another form of which is God religiously, understand we are discussing our very source. Draupadi's sari was pulled by Dushasana, an instance I refer to now and then. Dushasana has already started pulling the dress. She had only a single dress on her body. Yudhishthira had specially told her, come to the assembly wearing only a single dress. So with one dress she had covered the waist and with the same tip of it she had put it on her shoulder, covering the upper part. That dress this man started pulling. The entire visible world had nothing to provide in the way of a rescue, a redemption or a relief. Can you imagine? I don't think. Do you have the power of imagination? Just imagine. In an assembly where the best of people including Bhishma, Drona and the others were sitting. So many powerful people were there. Knowledgeable people were there. Honored and respectable persons were there. In their presence, this great lady, her sari was pulled by Dushasana. The entire world remained mute and helpless. But Draupadi, great as she was, did not relent, did not yield, refused herself to be submitted to the onslaught of Dushasana. She said, if the visible world fails, the source of the visible world will come to my protection. Thinking in this manner, she started calling, Hare, Hare, she started calling. And Dushasana was not able to disrobe her. Her dress started increasing in length. As much as he pulled, so much bigger and longer it was. Finally, he recoiled. with shyness, with fatigue, and with what else not. Unless you are connected to the source, your life is not going to be secure at all. You may have your parents, you may have your husband, you may have your wife, you may have your children. These are not the source of the world or of yourselves. Unless we have a direct connection with the source, in extreme distresses, in privations, in destitutions and the like, you will not be helped at all. At all. So it is our birthright to know what is the source of creation, what is the source of ourselves, so that we can be properly connected, we can be properly anchored, we can be protected, our life can be ensured. This is what we want. Janmadhyasya yado anvayaditaradah chartheshvabhijnaswarat. So Srimad Bhagavatam commences with the second of the Brahma Sutras. Brahma Sutras themselves being an important constituent of Prasthanatrayam, which is the cultural heritage, the cultural treasure, and the cultural source of this country. If there is anything great and adorable in our land, it is our Prasthanatrayam. Nothing short of it, nothing different from it. The first part of it, as I told you, is the Vedic Upanishads. So the content and the message of the Vedas are there. Then from the Smriti, you have a commentary called Bhagavad Gita. And Brahma Sutras themselves are Nyaya, reason, rationality. So it contains Shruti, Smriti and Nyaya. These are the three constituents of Prasthanatrayam. And that Prasthanatrayam is clearly referred to in this Srimad Bhagavatam in the opening verse. Janmadhyasya yado anvayaditaradah. If the Supreme Source is something invisible, it doesn't have a form, it doesn't have a personality as such, will it be vibrant? Will it be available to us whenever we want? The world is after all complex. More complex is our own individual, family and social life. So in times of distress, whenever we want, can we rely upon it? If you ask, yes. Though it is invisible, it is indistinct, like the space, understand, it is from within the space that all the other bhutas have evolved. And when you come to the solid earth, what are things you find there? You find plants, herbs, trees, creepers, then different types of beings, reptiles, birds, water creatures, land creatures, the huge elephant, and ultimately the human, the most superb of all creations. If all these things have come from the earth, can you dispose of saying that the earth is inert? You cannot dispose it of. If the earth is totally inert, then how can sentient beings evolve and survive on the earth? So the world has something more than, profoundly more than what you can think of. It is something to be understood. So Srimad Bhagavata says, the Supreme Source, from where the entire visible universe has emanated, Artheshvabhijna Swarat. Understand that it is Swarat. It is a sovereign emperor. Sovereign emperor. What do you mean by sovereign? Something that is independent. There is nothing and no one to condition it, to restrain it, to limit it. It is supreme in its own splendor. It is unquestionable in functioning with its own will and choice. Anywhere, anytime, anything it is capable of doing. What are the powers required after all? To make whatever is necessary, to unmake whatever is there, and to bring about changes. These are the powers that we require for God or for the supreme reality. Nothing else. Artheshu abhijnaha swarat. Don't think that it is something inert like the earth, seemingly like the earth. The Panchabhutas are inert, but the source is not inert. It is absolute sentience. And because of the sentient nature of the Supreme Source, Artheshu abhijnaha. Whatever is to be achieved at any point of time, the Supreme Source is capable of doing so, achieving it. It does not require any intermediary or any assistance or a subsidiary factor. All by itself, by virtue of its own profundity, its own natural and inherent splendor and potential and magnitude and glory, it will be able to achieve anything for you at any time. So don't doubt and do not feel bad about it. Artheshu abhijnaha. Artheshu means whatever objects of attainment or objects of pursuit are there to be accomplished, abhijnaha. It has the skill, it has the knowledge, it has the insight, it has the wish as well as the will to achieve it. Without involving in any time, process or effort, it will be able to deliver the rescue whenever required. We have the wonderful descent called Mohini. The milky ocean was churned. There was an agreement between Asuras and Devas. The agreement was flouted when the Amrita Kalasha was obtained. The nectar of Kalasha, the Kalasha of nectar was obtained. Then the Asuras stole it. How to recover it from the Asuras? They were in utter consternation, confusion. Suddenly a beautiful form appeared there. Not delivered by a mother, not bred by anybody. Suddenly Mohini, the most enchanting form, appeared there. Asuras, Devas, Asuras more particularly, were totally enchanted by it. And she was inquiring, what are you fighting about? What are you quarreling about? I said, we are quarreling about this. Now what should be done? You yourself resolve the problem, the Asuras said. Then she said, I am a stranger to you. If I say I will resolve the problem for you, will you accept it? No, we accept everything that you say. Because she was so enchanting. And she started managing the matter in such a manner that not a drop of nectar was given to the Asuras. Completely took away. Wherefrom did it appear? You answer me, my dear souls, if you have intelligence, wherefrom did the world appear? If this world can appear from seemingly nothing at the background, cannot a Mohini also arise here? How many different beings are there? What are the different powers and properties of all these beings? So a Mohini appeared, a Narahari appeared in order to save the little 7-year-old Prahlada. Hiranyakashipu had sought a variety of boons to protect him. He could not be assailed by anybody, either during the day or during the night, either inside or outside, either upon the earth or in the sky, either by human beings nor by other. Everything he insulated himself. Circumvening all this, Narahari appeared, and using the sharp nails he had, subduing the sword, subduing the shield, everything that his opponent Hiranyakashipu had, he started scratching, splitting, tearing, ultimately drew up the intestines, put it on his neck and sat on the throne. How did it happen? Artheshu abhijnaha swarat. Never point your finger at the supreme source, the supreme reality. We have Vamana episode, Aditi. I have to meet Mahabali, who is himself very great and powerful. He is under the best of blessings from God and also the elders. So I have to evolve a new stratagem in order to meet him, said Mahavishnu, and said, I will be born to you as your son and go there as Vamana. A peaceful encounter. Are you following me? A peaceful encounter. Actually, he was encountering somebody, but he never felt he was an enemy. He was a great and an honorable person. So such an honored person like Mahabali was met by in a more honored manner. Mahabali himself was made to say that I shall give everything, ask for everything, etc., etc. And finally Mahabali was subdued, not subdued. The gap and the hollowness in him were filled by Vamana, and he was given a very special seat in the special abode. This is what happened. What about the simple Sudama? Suffering from poverty and poverty alone, with having nothing to eat. Under the persuasion of Sushila, his better half, Sudama proceeded to Dwaraka. What a great ovation and reception did he receive in the hands of his old friend Sri Krishna. Ultimately, Krishna engaged him in such a beautiful conversation that Sudama forgot all about the mission for which he had gone. Ultimately, he snatched from his armpit a little upahara he had taken. Finally, with all the conversation, he sent him the next morning, that's all. Sudama was blaming himself, cursing himself. What can I tell my poor wife? She persuaded me to come to Dwaraka. Now I am going back without having confessed before my friend our miserable plight. But by the time he went there, he could not identify his own cottage. My dear souls, this is what the Supreme can do, will do, does do. Artheshu abhijnaha swarat. This one phrase, Artheshu abhijna swarat, can be illustrated, explained and elucidated for hours and hours, if not days and days. So you can rely upon this Supreme Source, though invisible in all matters. How is it that it is capable of doing all these things anywhere in this world? It doesn't have to traverse any distance. It doesn't have to take any time. Distance is there when so many objects are there in space, and time is there when the objects are undergoing transformations and changes. But this is a reality which is beyond time, space and causality. So it can reach anywhere. Why? It is not external. It is inner and inward to all the different forms of existence. Are you following me, I wonder? It's a very strange examination for me. I was speaking to you in Malayalam. I am again going to speak to you in Malayalam. But now suddenly as an intervention I speak to you in English. You know, it's a great test paper for me also. This Supreme Source is not external, outward, gross, solid, fluid or gaseous. It is inherent in every particle. It is inherent inward to your very body. It is closer to you than the body, closer to you than your mind, closer to you than your intelligence and even the ego. As Pingala describes, Santam Samipe Ramanam Radhipradam Vittapradam Nityamimam Vihaya. My wonderful beloved is seated so close within my heart. He is closer to me than everything in this world, including my body, mind and heart. So it is inward to you. And it is in the nature of consciousness, means knowingness and knowledge. So whenever anything takes place anywhere in the world, the first source to know about it is he or it. That is why we have some wonderful quotations. Before you knock, I open. Before you speak, I hear. Before you think, I understand. Before you start, I finish. We are not speaking of a human being. We are not speaking of a sensory creature. We are speaking of something in the way of a supreme reality, beyond and transcendent. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says towards the end, Ishvara sarva bhutanam hriddeshe arjuna tishtati brahmayan sarva bhutani yantrarudhani mayaya. What does it mean? What you call God is seated in the heart. Hriddeshe Arjuna tishtadi. He is seated in the heart of every creature. Brahmayan sarva bhutani. Seated inside your heart. He is operating all the different parts of your being in the form of body and senses, mind and intelligence, heart ego, etc. Unless something is seated very close within, it will not be able to manage. The whole universe is revolving. The whole universe is revolving. I wonder whether you have the power of imagination. The whole universe is revolving. So to make it revolve, the power cannot be outside the universe. It has to be inner to the universe, inward. So seated in the heart of every creature, I am rotating and revolve with them, as if something mounted in a machine. Yantrarudhani mayaya. By virtue of what? By virtue of the inscrutable power I have, called Yoga Maya or Maya. The source of the universe, the supreme reality which you religiously call God, is thus seated in everyone. So what came out to the rescue of Draupadi is not an external power. It is actually the power lying in Draupadi's body. It is not an outer power. The whole universe has come from inside, not from outside. Every form of growth that you can think of is from inside to outside, never from outside to inside. In ascertaining the nature of the supreme reality, what kind of it, of what kind is it, what is its potential, what is its magnitude, how to access it, etc. The opening verse says, Muhyanti yat suryaha. Muhyanti yat suryaha. Even the enlightened people, the scholarly people, the ascetic people, the spiritual stalwarts, the yogic emperors even, they are muhyanti, deluded. Deluded. If you start measuring the length of the universe and reaching the boundary of the universe, can you ever reach? You cannot. In the same manner, muhyanti yat suryaha. If you understand this source very well, you will find the whole universe has got no existence at all. Yatra trisargo mrisha. Yatra, where? Trisargaha, sattva, rajas and tamas. These are the constituents of nature. The entire nature is a compound of the three gunas. The three gunas are there constituting your personality. They are there within the atom even. They are equally there in the earth, in all the other planets, in the whole universe. The entire universe is a display, a manifestation, a splendor of the gunas. These gunas, their splendor, he says, mrisha. Mrisha. Absolutely an illusion. They are elusive. They are illusory. Now, if you put an avagraha there, it becomes amrisha. Somehow, the Srimad Bhagavata author has been very careful in using such words in describing these propositions so that you can make it positive as well as negative. If you remove the avagraha, it becomes illusory. If you put an avagraha, it becomes amrisha, not illusory. But I would like to explain, and I will continue to say that it is mrisha, because that is the message of Srimad Bhagavatam. What does Sri Krishna himself say? Yadidam manasa vaja chakshurbyam shravanadibhihi nashwaram grihyamanam cha vidhi maya manomayam. In the Shloka Shatkam, which Krishna first spoke to Uddhava, he clearly says, whatever Uddhava is grasped by or revealed by the mouth, articulation, manasa by the mind, vaja, chakshurbyam by eye, etc., shravanadibhihi by the ears, nashwaram grihyamanam cha, whatever is perceived or grasped or comprehended by any organ, external or internal, in the human personality, understand all that to be manomaya and maya. Ikshayada vibhramamidam manaso vilasam drishtam vinashtam adhilola malada chakram. In Hamsa Gita, Krishna says, Ikshayada vibhramamidam manaso vilasam. Uddhava, understand it very clearly. Whatever you are seeing or grasping or perceiving with the senses, All these are nothing but delusion and illusion. Manaso vilasam, drishtam, vinashtam, adilolam, alada chakram. These are all perceived all right, but in reality they are not there. In the dream you perceive many things, but are the dreamt phenomena any time there? When you wake up, everything is lost. In the same manner, the whole existence and creation are subsisting upon your individual wakeful awareness. I am wondering whether you understand me and I am able to make it clear to you. Wakefulness is an awareness of yours, like sleep and like dream. So when you are wakeful, that wakefulness brings about the whole universe, the external universe. So it subsists on your wakefulness. If wakefulness itself is subject to extinction in sleep, the wakeful product is also equally extinctional. Iksheda vibhramamidam manaso vilasam drishtam vinashtam adilolam. Extremely trifling, so to say, delicate. Alada chakram. It is just like a revolving firebrand. I don't have a firebrand with me, but I have my finger. Look at my finger. I go on revolving. So you see a circle. What circle? My finger is very narrow. How can it produce a circle? But when I rotate it very fast, you see a circle. Is the circle there? No. In the same manner, the universe is not there. It is something that your senses cook up. Drishtam vinashtam adilolam alada chakram avidyamano pyavabhadhi hidvayo dhyadurdhiya swapnamano rathau yatha. This is another verse from Ekadasha Skanda, where it is clearly said, avidyamanaha, this visible external universe, how much stupendous and imposing, solid, ground, and physical it may appear to be. It is actually avidyamanaha. It is not in reality existing. It is your awareness and consciousness that brings its existence and display. Nothing else. It is that alone, nothing else. So, mrisha is the right usage here. Tejo vari mridam yatha vinimayo yatratru sargo mrisha dhamna svena sada nirasta kuhagam satyam param dhimahi. Nirasta kuhagam. The supreme reality is such that at every point of time it is not affected, engulfed or overtaken by anything like maya, anything like a jugglery. By virtue of its own brilliance, by virtue of its own splendor, it always keeps away from evanescence. It gives you the notion of evanescence, transitoriness. It is its power to give you the notion of transitoriness. But it does not get involved in this transitoriness. I don't know whether I will explain. If I explain, you will understand it properly. What is that? Every day you wake up. And when you wake up, the world also rises. You interact with the world for about 10, 12 or even 13, 14 hours. At the end of the day, you go to sleep. When you go to sleep, the entire wakefulness and the wakeful effects all are wiped off, obliterated. Then you go to sleep for about 4 or 6 or 8 hours. Thereafter you come. In between you have a dream where a parallel world is created. So you are the waker, you are the sleeper, you are the dreamer. Are you following me? See, you are the waker, you are the sleeper, you are the dreamer. Now the dream is gone when you wake up. The wakefulness is gone when you sleep. And the sleep is gone when you wake up. So each state invalidates itself, is overtaken by the other. But the waker, the dreamer and the sleeper, he is never overtaken. All the three states are regularly wiped off. They are non-existent. But the substratum, namely, I woke up, I slept, I dreamt, that I, the substratum of all this, that is always shining. There is no point of time when that is put down or that becomes extinct. All the other things are extinct. Nirasta kuhakam, satyam param. You should come along with me with wings if necessary. Fly along with me. Srimad Bhagavata is discussing that kind of a supreme truth. Param means supreme, absolute, unconditioned truth. Satyam, ever present. Present in the past, present in the present, and present in the future. At no point of time it is extinct, nor can it be brought to extinction. That supreme truth which is transcendent. What is meant by transcendent? It is not within the range of sensory perception. You cannot search and find it out anywhere in the external universe. It's always inside your body. So close your eyes. Close your eyes. Sit. Immerse in your own inner consciousness and depth. Let the mind vaporize like burned camphor. What? When you burn camphor, there will be no residue left. In the same manner, you have to think. Ultimately, the entire thought process should become extinct. You have to reason, until at last the very reasoning process becomes extinct. When everything gets wiped off, the unwipeable presence you will attain. Satyam param. And in order to attain it, what do you have to do? Dhimahi. Carry it in your intelligence. Contemplate upon it assiduously, using your intelligence. You cannot do anything with God or reality except contemplate upon Him. If I give you a petal or a flower, I ask you, put it on God. You cannot put it on God. You may put it anywhere upon the surface of the earth. There is only one approach, that is contemplation. Contemplation. Try to understand it. Listen to it. As Parikshit was listening to, Sri Rama was listening to Vasishtha. Janaka Maharaja was listening to Ashtavakra sage. As all of you are listening to a Bhumananda Swami, listen to it, hear it fondly, lovingly, assiduously, persistently, consistently, devotedly, devoutly, dedicatedly. That is the only way. And then contemplate upon the concepts. Satyam param dhimahi. Where else this dhimahi appears? In our Rigvedic Gayatri. Tat savidur varenyam bhargo devasya dhimahi dhiyo yo nah prajodayad. Tat saviduhu varenyam bhargo devasya dhimahi dhiyo yo nah prajodayad. We are contemplating upon that adorable brilliance of the Deva. Contemplating upon. For what purpose? Dhiyo yo naf prajodayat. So that it may inspire and enliven our intellects. Generally people call it to be a prayer or a contemplation of Savita. Savita is generally understood to be Surya. I don't accept it at all. No. Not that I don't accept it, that is not the import. What can the external sun do in the matter of illumining your intelligence? Your intelligence is a conscious function and the sun is an inert object. Maximum the sun can emit light and heat. Both of them are in the fold of energy. Your intelligence is far superior to energy and matter. It is consciousness. That conscious pulsation called the intelligence, it cannot be motivated, inspired or enlivened by sun's rays and sun's heat. So the word Savita means what? Savita tu swatma bhudastu. Whatever is present in every Bhuta that is called Savida. He is the Samyak Veta also. That is the one which knows everything, which directs everything, which comprehends everything, which inspires, initiates and empowers everything. So the Gayatri is a contemplation upon the indwelling, supreme, transcendental brilliance. Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi. That Gayatri contemplation is given a more specific and a complete form here. Satyam Param Dhimahi. So the entire Srimad Bhagavatam is meant to make you comprehend, contemplate, actualize, experience and realize the supreme transcendental splendor reality which is in your own heart. I am reminded of Kenopanishad. What does Kenopanishad say? Keneshitam padadi preshitam manah kena pranah prathama praiti yuktaha keneshidam vachamimam vadanti chakshushrothram kaudevo yunakti. The Kenopanishad means by what Upanishad? Kena means by what? Keneshitam padadi preshitam manah. What is the force or what is the power and potential which activates my mind, by virtue of which my mind alights on the objects of the world? Keneshitam patati preshitam manah kena pranaha prathamaha praiti yuktaha. Propelled or inspired or impelled by which the first prana began its first movement in me. Keneshitam vachamimam vadanti. Led by what? Guided or motivated by what? The first speech comes out of my mouth and tongue. Chakshuhu shrotram kaudevo yunakti. What is that superhuman God which is behind the function of my ears as well as eyes? My dear souls, have you understood the difference here? The Upanishadic thinkers, the Vedic thinkers, maybe for decades they started involving themselves in the external world of objects and perceptions. They understood that all these are secondary. Everything is revealed by their senses, and the senses are propelled by the mind. The mind is itself led by the intelligence, and the intelligence in turn has to be guided by something still superior and inner. So the entire inquiry became subjective, personal, inner and experiential. Just see what Bhagavatam says. Yadvajanabhyudidam yena vagabhyudyate tadeva brahmatvam vidhi nedam yadidam upasate. And the answer is provided in the Upanishad. Yadvajanabhyudidam. That which our words cannot reveal. Yena vagabhyudyate. The power by which the words themselves are revealed. They assume their forms, ideas, etc. and come out. Tadeva brahmatvam vidhi. Know that to be the supreme reality. Nedam yadidam upasade. Not the one idol or picture which you worship here, keeping it in front like this. Am I clear? Huh? What you worship here is an idol. Now what is the truth? The truth? See? An idol is there made by me. It is placed in my front, looking at the place and the position. And my eyes are looking at it. My hands are trying to worship. Now, are these things first? Or the power and the presence which activate my eyes to see, activate my hands to work? Which is first? The external seen idol or the seeing inside? Tadeva brahmatvam vidhi. That is the supreme reality, not the one you worship here. Yen manasana manute yenahur manomatam yes chakshusana pashyadi yena chakshumshi pashyadi yet shotrena nashrinodi yena shotramidam studam yet pranena na pranidi yena prana praniyade tadeva brahmatvam vidhi nedam yadidam upasade. See, I am citing this Kenopanishad in order that my viewers and listeners will be able to understand how Srimad Bhagavatam makes its beginning. It directly links you to the supreme reality, and the whole purpose of the composition is to enable the readers, the thinkers, the hearers to contemplate upon this inner supreme presence. This is what he explains in the second verse also. Dharma projhida gaidavotra paramo nirmatsaranam sadam vedyam vastavamatra vastu shivadam tapatrayon moolanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite Kim va parairishvaraha sadyo hridya varudhyate atra kritibhihi shushrushubistakshanad. In the entire Srimad Bhagavatam he says, I am discussing dharma, the power, the process, the pursuit and the source which will be able to intrinsically sustain your life in spite of any kind of an onslaught, distress or suffering. Vedyam. Throughout the Srimad Bhagavatam, you have to know. Here, the truth is to be known. Vastavam, the truth. That alone is discussed here. Atra vastu shivadam. It is the one that is auspicious. That alone will be able to shower auspiciousness in your life. The entire world will give you what? Tapatrayam. The adhyatmic suffering, the adhibhaudik suffering, and the adhidaivik suffering. If all the three sufferings have to be redressed or eliminated, there is only one way. By coming to know the supreme truth, the reality, which is auspicious, and by virtue of its auspicious splendor, it will be able to remove all the darkness of suffering. Tapatrayon moolanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite. When the Mahamuni creation called Srimad Bhagavata is there, Paraihi Kim. What is the use of the other scriptures and the compositions? Why? Sadyo hridya varudhyate Ishvaraha. The Supreme Lord, the Supreme Reality is installed in your heart. Are you with me when I say this? Ishvaraha sadyo hridya avarudhyadetra kritibhihi. By those fortunate people, blessed people, good, benign, people who have faith, people who have adherence to the scriptures, whose life is fortunate, no hindrances, no obstructions. They are not suffering from skepticism, nothing like that. They have an innocent heart, innocent mind, innocent intelligence. Such people, sadyo hridya avarudhyate atra kritibhihi shushrushubistakshanad. Simply lend your ears, says Srimad Bhagavatam. All that you have to do is lend your ears. I will invade your heart. Invade your heart. Simply go on listening to what Srimad Bhagavatam says. Sadyo hridya avarudhyate atra kritibhihi shushrushubistakshanad. So my dear souls, what I have to tell you on behalf of Srimad Bhagavatam is, the whole Srimad Bhagavatam is actually a voyage through knowledge. It traverses your mind, traverses your intelligence, traverses through the ego. Ultimately, it lands you on the inner supreme splendor. It will enrapture you with the majesty and magnificence of your own soul. That is the supreme reality. The source is inner, not outer. The entire visible world is an illusion. It is elusive. The illusion-making substratum alone is the truth here. And that truth is not material. It is not energial. It is the consciousness, the pure consciousness that permeates your body, activates your organs, initiates every little bit of activity and pulsation and interaction in your life. Turn inward, contemplate upon the supreme truth, understand that it is absolute and transcendent. above the range of the senses. Have no truck with this world. No truck with this world. You are an illusion. Illusion. I am the seer. You are the seen. It is the seeing consciousness that cooks up the sight. The world becomes colored only because of my senses. In the absence of the senses, there will be nothing called world to be perceived or interacted with. Our senses themselves are not created by the world. It is cast, designed, made and preserved by the inner consciousness. Look there. The transcendental truth is there within your heart. Closer to you than everything else. Closer than your family members. Closer than your married partner. Closer than your children. Closer than even the deity you worship. Hanuman. There was a Rama there. See? Carrying the heart and the chest. My dear souls, don't be beggars. Don't be poor. You may be economically pure, but inwardly you cannot be. You should be an embodiment of abundance, affluence, opulence, and an undecaying, inexhaustible, spiritual, inner splendor. That is what you should be. Okay, let me stop. Unusual. A sannyasin doesn't need to be clapped. Better follow what he says. Shandasvabhavam ajaratmagameka satyam samvidpadam nirupamam kalana vihinam andarbahischa bahudha vyavaharyamanam taddaivamevam mama sarvam aham tadeva prabuddham vimuktam vikaradihinam prasannam sada nitya bodhaswarupam param nischalam nirgunam sarvarupam bhajeham sadanusmarami pranaumi. Harihi, Harihi. All of you together. Oh